Okay, so are you ready to dive into some seriously big questions? Buckle up, because today we're tackling the metaphysical realm. When that request came in, I gotta be honest, I was stoked. This stuff is like endlessly fascinating, right? What's really out there beyond what we can see and touch? It's a question people have been asking forever. So we're starting our deep dive with this article from That's Life 24/7. It's called Simply the Metaphysical Realm. Straightforward, yeah. But the more I got into it, the more I realized how much there is to unpack. Like, what exactly do we mean when we say metaphysical, and why does it feel like humans are just hardwired to keep coming back to that question?
You're absolutely right. It is a recurring theme, isn't it? Throughout history, I mean, it's not like this is some new agey thing. It's ancient. This drive to understand what's beyond the physical world, to explore consciousness, spirituality. Humans have been having this conversation for centuries.
It's like we intuitively know there's more than meets the eye, even if we don't have the words for it. And this article gets into some pretty wild stuff, like particles existing in multiple states at once. It's like science fiction is becoming reality right before our eyes.
Yeah, it's definitely true that some branches of science, especially things like quantum mechanics, seem to be pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible. And the ways those discoveries might connect back to these metaphysical ideas that have been around for ages.
Well, that's what makes this so fascinating to think about. Totally. So we've got this whole mix of ancient philosophy and cutting edge science all wrestling with the same big questions. Where do we even begin to untangle all of that?
Well, I think a good place to start, really, is by going back to some of those philosophical heavyweights. Plato and Aristotle, for example. They both had such different but fascinating takes on what reality actually is.
Hmm.
Plato, with his theory of forms, truly believed that there's this whole other reality out there, a realm of perfect, unchanging concepts. Like, imagine the ideal form of a chair or the perfect concept of beauty. Those exist somewhere in what we experience here in the physical world, just imperfect reflections.
So, like, there's a cosmic furniture store out there with the ultimate lazy-boy recliner, and all we get are the knockoffs. I kind of love that image.
Exactly. It's this idea that there's a blueprint world existing beyond our own. But then you have Aristotle coming in with a totally different perspective. He was much more about what we can observe, what's right here in front of us, emphasizing substance and purpose. For Aristotle, understanding something's function was the key to really understanding its nature.
Okay, so we've got ideal forms versus this idea of purpose-driven existence. And these aren't just like abstract ideas, right? This whole debate about what reality actually is, it has huge implications for how we see ourselves, how we interact with the world.
Oh, absolutely. It affects everything.
Yeah.
Ethics, morality, even the very foundation of how we know what we know. And the really mind-blowing thing, these questions that philosophers were grappling with thousands of years ago are still so relevant today. We see them pop up in debates about consciousness, AI, even in how we interpret things like quantum mechanics.
It's like these ancient thinkers tapped into something fundamental about being human, something that we're still trying to understand. And I think that's what makes this deep dive more than just a thought experiment. We're really talking about what it means to be human in this vast, mysterious universe.
Yeah, and it's like we're hardwired for that, isn't it? To look
Yep.
beyond the everyday, to search for deeper meaning. And this article, it totally gets that. It dives headfirst into some seriously mind-bending stuff, like metaphysical entities and phenomena that make you question everything you thought you knew about reality.
Oh, absolutely. We're definitely in sounds like science fiction, but maybe isn't territory here. But that's part of the fun of the metaphysical, isn't it? It forces us to confront the limits of what we think we know and how much we don't understand. For sure. And there are some real head scratchers in here. Like one that really got me thinking was this idea of possible worlds. It's basically saying, what if our reality isn't the only one? Like, what if there are countless versions of reality out there, each with its own set of rules and possibilities?
It's a mind-bending concept, for sure. And it speaks to that question that's captivated both philosophers and physicists for a long, long time. What if the universe isn't a done deal? What if instead of being deterministic, it's really this huge ocean of possibility? And every choice, every little quantum event could lead to a totally different result, a different way for reality to unfold.
Whoa, okay, I think my brain just glitched. But it's also kind of freeing, right? Like maybe our mistakes and regrets aren't permanent. Maybe they're just one possibility in a sea of infinite choices.
It definitely makes you think, that's for sure. And it highlights how much we still have to learn about what reality really is. And that's where things get really interesting when we're talking about the connection between metaphysics and science.
Right, because on the one hand, we've got this world of huge philosophical ideas, right? Exploring consciousness, the nature of existence itself. these concepts that are hard to pin down with scientific methods. It's like you said, it's not like you can put spirituality under a microscope.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, we've got fields like quantum mechanics that are showing us aspects of the universe that seem totally illogical. Ideas about particles existing in multiple states simultaneously, or even the idea that just observing something might change the outcome of an experiment.
Hmm.
Those concepts start to feel very metaphysical, don't they?
They do. So, are we really just talking about two sides of the same coin? Is it possible that science is finally catching up with ideas that metaphysics has been exploring for centuries?
That's a great question. And I don't think there's one easy answer. I don't think it's about one proving or disproving the other, really. But what's important is that both science and metaphysics, in their own unique ways, they're pushing us to broaden our understanding of the universe and our place in it. They both challenge us to let go of our assumptions, to be okay with mystery, and to accept that there might be way more to reality than meets the eye.
I love that. It's like this grand dance between the concrete and the unknown, the seen and unseen. And it seems like all throughout history, people have found ways to try and connect with that unseen world, to explore it through different practices and beliefs.
Yeah, for sure. And the article mentions a whole bunch of them, right? Everything from meditation and prayer to energy healing and like exploring altered states of consciousness. It really is like we have this built-in need to connect with something bigger than ourselves, something beyond the material world.
It is fascinating how those practices, many of which have roots in really ancient traditions, are still so relevant today, though. Even more so, maybe. Like in a world that feels so chaotic and uncertain a lot of the time, these practices can offer a way to find some inner peace, Connect with something deeper, find some meaning. Totally. It's like they give you a framework to at least approach those big existential questions we've been talking about. And even for people who aren't religious or spiritual, there's still something about these practices that seems to resonate, right? I mean, look at how many people are into meditation these days.
Right. And I think that's because at their core, these practices are about connecting with something deep within ourselves.
Hmm.
Whether you believe in a higher power or you're tapping into some kind of inner wisdom, it's about cultivating a deeper understanding of who you are and what really matters.
It's like they give you a different way of seeing, a new lens to look at yourself and the world through. And it brings us right back to that sense of wonder and curiosity that we started with. Because the more we explore these metaphysical ideas, the more we realize how much we don't know.
And there's something really humbling in that, don't you think? But exciting, too. This whole metaphysical realm with all its mysteries and complexities. It invites us to stay open, to keep asking questions, to be okay with not having all the answers.
It's not about clinging to some rigid belief system. It's about being comfortable with uncertainty, being okay with not knowing everything.
Exactly. It's about embracing the unknown, accepting that there's always more to discover, more to learn, both out there in the universe and within ourselves.
This deep dive has been quite a ride. I mean, we've covered so much ground, ancient philosophers to the latest scientific discoveries, pop culture to personal practices, and somehow it all connects back to this very basic human need to understand. Who are we? Why are we here? What does it all mean?
It's definitely been a fascinating conversation, and I hope it's given our listeners some food for thought.
Me too. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this whole deep dive, it's that spirit of exploration. Don't shy away from the big questions. Don't be afraid to challenge what you think you know. And whatever you do, don't lose that sense of wonder. The next time you look up at the stars and find yourself pondering the universe, just remember the metaphysical realm is always there, waiting to be explored. Who knows what incredible things you might find?